Just sort of a reminder that there will be a regular meeting tonight, and it has to start right at 6 p.m. due to public hearings, and a special meeting immediately after the regular meeting. I also would like to announce that Councilman Campbell will not be here at this meeting, but she will be calling in on the regular meeting. So we have a couple items on discussion. The first one on the agenda is an overview on the proposed foreign trade zone, spec building and manufacturing industry. Kim Bradford, Interim Economic Development Manager, Harry Paxton, Economic Development Project Manager, to present. Hello.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you this evening. As you mentioned, we'll be giving you the highlights of the proposed foreign trade zone, speculative building, and manufacturing industry policy. Presenting with me this evening is Harry Paxton, our Economic Development Project Manager, and we also have on the phone Curtis Spencer from IMS Worldwide, and he is our consultant with the Greater Maricopa Foreign Trade Zone and is our subject matter expert in FTZ policy matters and has been working with us on these parameters. So we had a work session with the City Council back in June to discuss a potential policy, and we've been working on bringing those parameters before you, which we will be reviewing at a high level this evening. And our intent is to really review what those are and get your feedback or answer any questions that you have so we can bring that policy back for a formal consideration in December. So one of our key objectives in economic development is to bring jobs to the community. And one of the ways that we've been successful in doing that over the past couple years is through our foreign trade zone policy, which provides benefits for users that import at a certain level and provides a break on their property taxes. We do have some key corridors that we're looking to aggressively market that are currently zoned or have land use designation for industrial I-1 uses. And those key corridors are really along the 303 corridor, which was just completed the I-10 transition, and MC85 area in the southern area of the city, as well as along Bullard Avenue and what we call our airport employment corridor. And so with the adoption of our Focus on Success Economic Development Strategic Plan, is that working? Okay. There were two areas that were really identified in terms of how we could be more aggressive. One was to increase the availability of shovel-ready sites, so those that have either some speculative building available and also infrastructure improvements, making those attractive to users. And then also there was a recommendation to maximize the use of our foreign trade zone benefit that we have, and how could we be a little bit more aggressive. You'll see in there that we do have some targeted industries that were adopted in our plan and that we are aggressively recruiting, including in the aviation and aerospace area, medical and health services, technology, high-tech manufacturing, and internet fulfillment and distribution. And so there were really two opportunities that we identified, and one was how can we develop this policy and utilize the foreign trade zone to encourage developers to invest in speculative building space. And also we heard from the development community that it would really be beneficial to them if they could market their area as foreign trade zone eligible. And so after the discussion with council, we've been working with the development community and under the parameters that you provided to bring forward a policy that includes all of those objectives. And so with that, I'll let Harry review those details with you. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions or need clarification, please ask us, because we do want to make sure we get any direction so we can bring it back for consideration.
Thank you, Kim. Harry?
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. Those policy directions that we received back in June was to encourage development in industrial areas, which we are with this policy. In fact, I think it's one of the most aggressive ways that we can encourage that development. Only allow the incentive to be provided to industries consistent with the city development policies. So that was also an area in which we looked at, and I think as we go through this, you'll see where we are consistent with that. Encourage the location of the city's targeted industries. That's something that we really spent a lot of time on looking at, is how and where we could do that and make sure that we provided those opportunities to our target industries that meet a certain high wage standard, that meet a certain capital investment requirement. And then identify specific areas where the city FTZ incentive would be limited to targeted industries. So in doing that, you have before you a map that has several colors shaded in that show where our existing foreign trade zone locations are at that were approved back in July of 2009.
Goodyear City Hall enhancements. Mark Flynn, Municipal Services Manager, Guyleen Oslansky, Arts and Culture Coordinator, to present. And I'm just so pleased to see you here presenting this. I think the city manager gets tired of me asking where we are on this project. So for the mayor, she's very happy this evening. So you have the floor.
Well, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to visit with you this evening. Tonight, the focus is on kind of two facets of the project. If you remember, last time we visited, we talked about the main entry to City Hall, as well as some of the wayfinding signage, the building identification and ways to make sure folks find their way to the front of the building. Lion's share of the presentation this evening, I'm going to turn to Guyleen to talk about the art project and some issues related to that. And we also have some representations for the wayfinding and the building components that we'd like to share with you this evening as well. So
Good.
I'll turn it over to Guyleen.
Yes, Guyleen.
I'm Guyleen Oslansky, Arts and Culture Coordinator. Tonight I want to provide an update on the Thank you. Tonight I'd like to update you on the upcoming project to enhance City Hall. In this project, there's a public art component, an identification signage component, and we have some wayfinding signs along in this as well. We're going to be providing information pertaining to the artist contract that will be coming to council on December 8th for approval as well. So the first thing was selecting Goodyear City Hall as the site for our public art. And per our public art plan, we identified City Hall because it serves as the hub for city business, as you all know. Approximately 6,000 residents use City Hall and utilize the customer service desks that are in there monthly. We have 6,000 that come through. Currently, the building is very difficult to identify as City Hall. It's a similar design of Goodyear Financial Center that's next door to us. And we also want to develop a cohesive appearance of municipal buildings. This has been identified as a priority. So the process that we took to get from the beginning of this to where we are now included identifying not only the location but the site for the public art. And we identified the entrance as the best place for this public art piece because we wanted to start creating a sense of arrival, to start defining this building separate from the one that's adjacent to us. From that, we created a scope for the project that addressed the needs of the site. And this is when we decided to go and combine the public art piece with the identification signage piece to really maximize the project. And for doing this, what we've done is we've created a budget for this project that's a total of $140,000. $70,000 of that was for the Percent for Art program, and $70,000 came from the City Hall signage supplemental that was for the phase 1 of that project. Then we moved on to publish the request for qualifications for this project. And part of this project, this RFQ, was that only Arizona artists were eligible to apply. We had 8 artists apply for this call to artists. And at that point, our selection panel was able to review and select 4 finalists. Our selection panel included 7 panel members, and the panel members were community members, Goodyear residents, we had arts professionals, we had city staff, and leadership that were all included on that panel. The 4 finalists that they selected were tasked with creating a site-specific concept, and they were asked to incorporate current design standards that were part of our wayfinding that's at Goodyear Municipal Complex to continue creating that cohesive appearance that we're looking for. The finalists presented their site-specific concept, and the selection panel recommended the New Media Public Art Collective. This group is the group that's also creating the public art in front of the library. So you are maybe familiar when we get to those design concepts. It really fit in with that cohesive appearance, and they were a group that really addressed all of the needs and the scope of our project. The New Media Public Art Collective came and on November 6th, met the Arts and Culture Commission They presented their concept to them, and they voted, and it was a unanimous vote to approve this artist and this concept for City Hall.
Makes it what you're saying, the public chose this.
Public chose this, most definitely. The next step in this is, like I said, on December 8th, this will come to council for approval of the artist contract. So the project and I have a few slides here for images, and we also have brought the maquette that the artist created for this site. The New Media Public Art Collective wanted to create an environment of distinction, pride, and enjoyment for all citizens. And so some components that are in there is there's some sculptural seating that you'll find to the right and left of the entrance of City Hall. This seating is functional and beautiful. The next piece is the aesthetic shade canopies, which as the sun moves, it casts a shadow that really emulates our city logo and emulates like sun rays. Those sun rays will be seen on the, in this plaza area or on the building, depending on the placement of the sun. There's some active lighting. There's LED lights that will be part of this piece at the evening to really change that environment and the look. This whole entire piece will provide a unique destination for our city, and it emphasizes the entrance to our building, creates that sense of arrival. It, with the seating and the canopies, it kind of funnels people to that entrance so they know where to go when they park and they arrive at City Hall. So the following slides show some concept drawings that the artists have created. I think that one of the pieces that we really want to point out is on the curb area, and I'm going to point it out here on our model. Up here in front, and that is a seating area, but that is our identification signage, and that has Goodyear City Hall on it, and you'll be able to see it better.
Can't see it on this one.
On this one,
you can't see it, yeah.
In a couple slides, we'll be able to see it. The nighttime slide shows it off even better. But the artist was able to take the signage off the building and bring it down up front so you see it right as you come in. Another really unique element of this project is on the seating, we will have quotes that will be placed on there, and the artist is really looking forward to maybe getting community involved in that to help identify what those quotes are. These are just sample quotes in this piece, but those will be decided at a later date.
You can't beat Alexander or Hamilton or Jefferson.
Well, we can have that conversation, and like I said, it'll be great to be able to get community involved to, identify what they'd like to see there. So in the evening, this is going to really, this is where we really get a different feel of this space. By adding the color, by illuminating the Goodyear City Hall sign, we really will define our City Hall as something special and unique. And I'm going to turn it over to Mark now so we can talk more about the wayfinding and the other signage pieces.
The second component of the project will involve pieces of signage that are located throughout the grounds as well as specifically on the building in much a similar manner to what we've done here at the Goodyear Municipal Center here in the buildings that we're occupying currently. The site plan is intended just to give you a visual of where signage is currently and which pieces of signage we'll be working on as part of this. You may recall that the pieces to the north, the three components that you see to the southwest and to the north of the Goodyear Financial Center are actually owned by Goodyear Financial Center. Those are not components that we have the opportunity to change without more involvement on the part of the ownership of that complex. But the signage that's from the courtyard south are all pieces that are specific to the city. And we have engaged Goodyear Financial's ownership about the potential of modifying the sign that's right there on that little sunshade plaza.
Oh, yeah, good.
They were very open to the idea, especially when I shared to them that it would not be on their dime. The city would be funding that component. They thought that was a really good idea. So the components that we're looking at are wayfinding signage throughout the grounds to help you make your way toward this main entry that Guyleen has just shown you with some of those representations. And there are a series of slides that we'll look at in the next couple of shots here to help delineate what those will be, again, picking up on the work that we've done here at the Goodyear Municipal Center. You may recall here in this complex we use the reverse pan channel letters that are mounted high up on the building, and they're illuminated at night. Also in a very significantly contrasting color to the base color of the building, so even during the day, the intent is that those would stand out quite readily for someone who is making their way south on Litchfield Road. The idea is that they would be located above the glass, and at present we're calling for those to be below that green band that makes up the detail on the building. They would be electrified, so we'd be bringing that in from the roof line as we've done here at this complex. This specific identification, the monument that's on Litchfield Road, is intended to be located exactly where the current monument is, out on the east side of the building and southbound on those Litchfield lanes. But again, we're going back to the model that we've incorporated here at the building, trying to maintain that idea of consistency across municipal buildings. And then this is also an illuminated sign, so you would see this sign at night as you do to the ones that are out on Van Buren Street, where they would have that slight glow to them as well. This is the monument between the two buildings. The photograph that's at the top is the current indication or the current representation of the monument that's in place. Our plan would be to modify that to reflect what's in the bottom mock-up that's there, but then to also incorporate the Goodyear Financial Center's directional arrow to help delineate, as we've done currently. We didn't want to necessarily take that away from the GFC folks in the work that we were doing. And throughout the complex, to aid in the wayfinding component, there are some small boxed signs that exist. They're at the driveway between the building to the south of City Hall, as well as in the landscape as you begin to make your way into that front driveway area. We would go back to the model that we've incorporated here from the Goodyear Municipal Complex and utilize the steel panels with the directional arrows to help folks make their way into that main entry. The idea of coordinating the main entry public art project with the wayfinding, is intended to help folks make their way to City Hall, for them to know where they're heading to and to be able to quickly identify the building. The idea would be hopefully to create that sense of arrival for the patrons who are making their way into the facility, and then to have that commonality across buildings throughout the city. And we think we've tried to, we think we've been able to incorporate that in what we're representing with you here this evening. We're happy to field any questions that you may have about the project. Or
Bill?
The original 70,000 supplemental, what was that designed to cover or intended to cover?
The phase one of the project was that main entry of City Hall. I think you may recall that we had presented a representation that called for a large arc sign across the front of the building that was internally illuminated and suspended off the front of the building. That $70,000 represented that component of the signage. We had some specific issues to tackle with regard to that regarding the structure. The right. Building in that location it's a tilt-up component, and we didn't have anything really to anchor to. That was becoming part of the problematic concern with that design. The idea of the public art project that came about subsequent to that allowed those two to be incorporated into a common theme, and then those two budgets, the public art budget and the supplemental for the signage, were combined to allow that public art project to move forward.
So if the wayfinding signage and the sign on the building itself, is that that's the 70,000 now?
No, those components, those two $70,000 numbers that Guyleen had shown you to make up that project represent the art project.
How much of that 140,000 is art? That's
the 140,000 that we have budgeted is for the public art piece and the identification signage that's just at the entrance here. So that is for this project that we have the maquette for in front.
So that whole thing is 140.
Yes, correct.
So all these extra signs and everything else is more money on top of it. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct, sir. And those are funded components.
And they're not funded?
They are funded. No, they are currently funded.
And how are those funded?
Those were funded by a supplemental that was authorized by council in the current fiscal year.
Yeah, we identified all of that. I only know this just because this has been my big, we're not moving out of the City Hall. We have people that stop us, mayors in and out of the City Hall, that stop us, don't know where the City Hall is. People on the street don't know where the City Hall is. And so since we're going to be in the building, why let the building deteriorate? Why not improve the building? And if nothing else, what is the thing we could improve the building that's going to affect us more, and not the building itself, is signage. And so from the very beginning, this has been going on, I suppose, back before you came on as city manager. So this project isn't something that just popped up. We've been talking about it for a long, long time, and so finally it came forth. And I understand what your question is. Did they have to pay twice because the first one didn't turn out? Is that what you're saying?
No, not at all. I understood the design issue and the complication of the actual building itself that wouldn't support the sign.
Structural
yeah,
issues.
I got all that. And I knew that we had a supplemental that was approved as part of the budget that originally was planned for that sign, and now that goes away. I understand that. But what I don't have a recollection of is the additional supplemental for the additional signage that we just saw pictures of.
That supplemental was approved in the package, the budget that was approved for fiscal 15 that we're working on.
So the
currently.
original one is from 13-14, and now this one is 14-15?
That's correct.
So it was
That
obviously
was
a carryover?
Carried over, yes. And that's the way we refer to it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Joanne?
Well, I really appreciate this. I think it's wonderful, and I really like the fact that we're tying the library sign, the signage here for Anita, with the city hall. You know, I'm really happy about that. One question, though, I will ask, and that is because of safety. And I recall this being an issue with the on Western the benches. And because this doesn't give me a great idea as to how sharp it is, but when we have our Goodyear sign and you have no guard around the rays, they look sharp just in the picture. And that was part of the issue with those benches, is nobody would allow sharp things looking because they were worried about kids and climbing all over this. And we're making this an area of people to sit and to, you know, and so I'm just asking about that.
Right. That's a good question. And when the artist came in to present to the Arts and Culture Commission, he did address that. In slides, in a concept drawing, you can't really see this truly as it's going to be. They haven't designed it as like a flat sheet of iron. There actually is volume to it. It's going to be thick. So
Okay.
when you see the sun rays, the logo come up, that's not just going to be a sharp piece.
Okay.
That will have width on it, so that there isn't any of those hazards, especially with, like you said, if someone's climbing, or we don't want to have any of those problems.
Right.
And so we will address that, and there won't be sharp edges on there.
Good question, Joanne.
Thank you. That was all.
Sherry?
I'm very happy with it and the work that's been done. I think it looks good. There's oftentimes, like the mayor was saying, I was just directing a new resident to where City Hall. It was very difficult to explain which building it was in. And I know oftentimes, especially in the wintertime, if there's community meetings down in City Hall, it'll be much easier. And I like the lighting because I think it'll be safer when you're coming or going from some of those meetings from City Hall. So I do appreciate all the work. It's functional, and I think it looks very pleasant. So thank you.
Joe?
No, I just want to add I appreciate all the effort. I think it's going to look great at the front. It's kind of bland right now. It'll draw some attention to our building. And for those, again, you know, I've had people stop and ask me where's City Hall, and they're right in front of it. So this will definitely help. All right. And the lighting, thumbs up for the lighting.
Bill?
Turn this on. One of the things that is the irony of my original question is I had been asking the manager and staff to talk about our city hall and our other city facilities along Western. What can we do about it? So I'm not opposed at all to this concept. So don't let my questions drive you in that direction. However, I would like a breakdown of how we funded this thing in its totality across all of the years that we've been approving money to do this. There's no surprise the night that you come before to authorize whatever we're going to authorize to get this done. Quite frankly, I don't know that I recall doing this in 2 consecutive fiscal years, but obviously we did. So I'd just like a refresher on that. The concern, and I don't even know that it's a current concern, it's actually an observation. We decided to do seating around the library because that was a place that people would hang out. The location of City Hall is not a hangout place. So we're going to invest a whole lot of money in chairs that I'm afraid are never going to be used. And that concerns me. Because there's not a coffee shop within walking distance. People aren't, no offense, but people aren't hanging out at City Hall because it's a great place to be, to socialize. So
Correct.
what's our...
Wait, we have a fix for that. Sherry came this, and guys, we have got to leave here in 3 minutes on that on this clock for this public meeting, so you make this quick. But Sherry came with a suggestion tonight, and we're going to answer your coffee shop.
Oh, there we go. In Phoenix City Hall has similar little things, and people do, staff sits out there, people visiting sits out there for lunch, and it is actually used. So I would say it's probably used. And they had a great idea about 10 years ago. They got a coffee cart, Starbucks coffee cart. And we don't have any place over here for people visiting, and you know,
Did it at Phoenix? It works.
they did it at my law school. They did it. They brought a
The
coffee
law
cart
school
in.
works.
I mean, I think ASU has one or used to have one too.
So,
So-
quickly to address Councilmember Stipp's question. First, what's coming to council on December 8th is only the $140,000 piece. So that's the only thing that you're going to be looking at to approve on that artist contract, which is the phase 1 of the identification signage and the Percent for Art program money. They're both budgeted. As for the seating, again, when we did research on this, we do have 6,000 residents that come through. So oftentimes you'll see there's children that are there, and I think that it will be utilized more than we expected. It really isn't a place that you just go and say, hey, I'm going to sit out in front of City Hall, but I do see that there will be a need for it. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. We're going to
Thank you,
adjourn
Mayor.
that,
Thank you,
and we're going to start the meeting right away on the dais. This meeting is adjourned.